Philippians Chapter 2, through the Bible, Part 8. Mind of Epaphroditus, the work of Christ. Epaphroditus was another who had the mind of Christ. He and Paul and Timothy were all together, brethren in the Lord, serving the Lord. Remember that he is the pastor of the church in Philippi. Yet I supposed it necessary to send to you Epaphroditus, my brother and companion in labor and fellow soldier, but your messenger, and he that ministered to my wants. Philippians 2 verse 25. Paul had founded the church at Philippi, but Epaphroditus was not jealous of Paul. Paul loved Epaphroditus because he had the mind of Christ and Paul could trust him. He calls him my brother and my companion in labor and my fellow soldier. Paul says, he is my fellow soldier. He fights with me. He doesn't stick a knife in my back when I'm away. He doesn't side with my enemies. He stands shoulder to shoulder with me for the faith. But your messenger, and he that ministered to my wants. He was of practical help to Paul, who is confined there in chains. For he longed after you all, and was full of heaviness, because that ye had heard that he had been sick. Philippians 2 verse 26. This is almost humorous here. Epaphroditus got sick, and word was sent back to the church at Philippi that their own pastor was sick. He longed for them. He probably was a little homesick also. Then when he heard that the church back there was mourning for him because he was sick, he had a relapse because it hurt him that they were hurt because he was sick. There was sort of a vicious circle set in motion here. But it was good because it revealed the marvelous relationship between the church at Philippi and their pastor. In my conference ministry, I speak in many churches, and I have learned that I can judge a church by its attitude toward a pastor who preaches and teaches the Word of God. When a deacon takes me aside and says, Dr. McGee, we have a fine young pastor, and he is preaching the Word of God, this rejoices my heart. But sometimes a deacon takes me aside and says, say, how do we get rid of a pastor like we have? He is too opinionated, too dogmatic, and he wants to run things. I ask him, is he teaching and preaching the word? When the deacon's answer is, oh, yes, but we have had that all along. I can see that the word has had no effect upon that man. If his feeling is shared by the church in general, that church is doomed. The rejection of a Bible-teaching preacher is the death knell of many churches across this land of ours. You see, the devil has been very clever. He has shifted his attack from the Word of God itself to the man who teaches the Word of God. I find this is true across the length and breadth of our nation. The real test of a church is its attitude toward its pastor. Epaphroditus was greatly loved by his church, and that speaks well for the church in Philippi.